Welcome back, one and all. It's the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola. She is, I'm almost certain, Francesca Fiorentini. How's it going, Francesca? That sounded exasperated and then deeply sad.
Oh yeah, that's where I've been. That's where I've been, But look, at least germs aren't real anymore. So everybody,
they're done. Make America healthy again. No more medicine. No more medicine.
Yep.
Well, hold it. We'll get to that. But yeah, it's the news is just, man. One of the I don't have a lot of optimism right now, but one of the things that's giving me optimism is that considering what the news is like, the fact that more people are tuning in now, that sustains me. That people are, that even though it's that dark, people are like, you know what? I'm not actually gonna stick my head in the sand. I'm not actually gonna go to sleep. I'm gonna give a damn. And I like that. That's right. On the days when I don't want to give a damn, it helps me know that other people do. And so we'll have that, and we'll have a lot of other news. We'll have some positive news. Winning and actually getting what you want, that's the best thing, that's the goal, but it's also impossible. We're progressive, it's never gonna happen, so forget about that. So then being right is more achievable.
No.
It doesn't matter being right, but it's nice. And then finding out that you're not crazy and other people do agree with you, that's like the third best thing. And I have that for everyone today.
Oh,
we have some we're right and some, other people agree with you. So that'll be fun. And just a lot of other corruption and cuts to come and attacking the media. And John Stewart doing a good interview with Hakeem Jeffries. So we're gonna have that for you. And we're gonna be ending this show with what's likely to become of Ukraine. So lots of fun there. So hit the like button, share the stream, send us your comments or tweets or super chats. I gave out a Blue Apron gift card yesterday and I'd like to make it 2 days in a row. So help me by sending in good comments.
You know what else is fun, John, before we jump into the news?
What is fun?
Live stand-up comedy to take the edge off of this, hell world we live in. Next Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. at the Ice House in Pasadena. Come see me and a bunch of other awesome comics.
Nice.
I'm calling it New World Disorder. It's my new show. FrancescaFiorentini.com for tickets. I hope to see you there.
Nice. I'm assuming that name is a tie-in to the new Captain America film, I think. Which I've heard very mixed things about, and that makes me kind of sad.
Well, it's a propaganda film mostly, so.
Well, no, actually, the criticisms are that it's wildly apolitical in a way that it should not be. But anyway, I guess challenging or not challenging power when you have an opportunity to sort of is still propaganda. But anyway, with that said, we're gonna jump into the news. We're gonna start off with only the most fun stuff that should totally happen in a functional democracy. Better get that medicine while you can, because RFK Jr. just got confirmed by the Senate. Yes, RFK Jr., the person who most people only know because he's been waging a one-man war against the very concept of medicine for decades now, is gonna be in charge of our medicine, head of HHS. And it was, I guess at the same time, by the numbers kind of close, but also when you really look at it, not at all. The final vote was 52-48. Now, all the Democrats voted against him, so I guess that's good. Fetterman, nice work, I appreciate it.
Wow.
One Republican voted against RF freaking K Jr. to be in charge of medicine, and that is Mitch McConnell, who multiple times on today's show and our bonus content is gonna be the good guy, I guess. So he put out a statement. I'm gonna read a statement of Mitch McConnell's designed to give credit to Mitch McConnell. It's a deeply strange time we live in. He said individuals, parents, and families have a right to push for a healthier nation and demand the best possible scientific guidance on preventing and treating illness. But a record of trafficking in dangerous conspiracy theories and eroding trust in public health institutions does not entitle Mr. Kennedy to lead these important efforts. He apparently, I guess, had polio or something when he was younger. So he takes medicine seriously, which we all should, but we don't typically as a nation, not for the last 5 years or so anyway. And so, yeah, Francesca, he made it through. He seemed like one where, I mean, surely there's gotta be a few people. Susan Collins had concerns, but she voted for him. What do you think?
I mean, just on a personal level, this one is probably the most terrifying to me as the parent of a young child who's going to, need to go through the school system as there are measles outbreaks in Texas because of a low vaccination rates. But this confirmation kind of makes sense to me, given that COVID-19 broke everybody's brain.
Yep.
And the amount of conspiracy theories that were peddled and the likes of RFK and all of his supplement hawking pseudo scientists / non-doctors made a killing off of telling people that what was happening before their very eyes, which was, yes, very frightening and difficult to understand, wasn't actually happening. And that somehow vaccinations, which lowered the death rate and lowered your ability to get severely ill, although did not completely immunize you, that somehow that was the enemy and that was science was the problem, building on top of decades of a public health system in this country that is far too long meant profits only for big pharma and private health insurers, and not actually building trust in doctors and supporting them and supporting people getting to know their doctors. So I don't know, John, like when I think about it in this sort of broader scheme of how much distrust there is in our health institutions, it makes sense. But of course, these are our leaders. These are the people who know better. They know. John, you saw he was on the stand saying that AIDS and HIV impacts Black people differently, and they don't need they don't need vaccinations at the same rate as other people. This is straight up like eugenics level racism, and he still gets confirmed. Yeah.
There's a lot of that going around.
Tons.
Yeah, no, it's man, like you're totally right to point out, people are super suspicious, right? Everybody's suspicious of the elites, except in the cases where it should be the most obvious that you should be suspicious. You look at Kennedy and people are like, oh, well, I mean, sure, he says a lot of insane stuff, but he's a Kennedy, so I guess automatically he knows what he's talking about. That's not how suspicion is supposed to work. That's not how anti-elitism is supposed to work. RFK Jr. has been doing work around medicine and vaccines for a long time. And a lot of people come out of that thinking, oh, then he must know what he's talking about. No, he doesn't understand these agencies. He cannot read scientific literature on medicine and learn anything from it, because he goes in wanting to believe certain things. He's believed for decades the vaccines are terrible, and so he reads into whatever is out there, what's necessary to come away with that conclusion, which is the exact opposite of the sort of person you want in charge of science, particularly in this area having to do with medicine. They trust him, they trust Elon Musk, these people who don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Yes.
It is branding, it is PR that makes you think they know that he knows medicine, or that Elon Musk knows coding or engineering or rockets or cars. It's just PR. Why the hell are you getting so easily bought out by public relations firms?
You know what's crazy, John?
Really fast.
Yeah.
I also share with you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What are you gonna say?
No, you go.
Okay. The thing about this, that you said that this scares you the most. I don't know if it individually scares me the most, but one of the things that worries me the most for the future is I perhaps naively think, okay, Trump is gonna fail in 1,000 ways. That's obvious. It's already happening. And then people will see that and be frustrated, disappointed, furious, whatever. And I do believe that still in a number of areas, inflation and that sort of thing. But in this area, as you pointed out, I don't have any faith in that. He could literally ban vaccines. We could have measles outbreaks. We could have TB outbreaks. People could be dropping dead all over the country. And we already know people are not gonna care, because we've already been through that. They saw thousands of people a day dying of COVID. They ignored it. I don't care. And then they'd look to, oh, a celebrity died? It was probably the vaccine that killed him. Actually, it was definitely the vaccine that killed him. Every athlete that died was killed by the vaccine, even if they didn't have it. And so this is not hypothetical. We've already been through that. People in America cannot learn, even if 1 million people drop dead around them. That's not enough for them to learn. Their own family members dying is not enough to get them to wake up. They're so willfully asleep in this area. Final point goes to you.
No. I mean, I think we have to understand the racial implications of that. We remember early days of COVID, that disproportionately Black Americans were being infected and dying, and that was then seen as like, again, back to eugenics. It was okay for that to happen, and we know Black people, brown people, and poor people are going to be the ones most affected by the mismanagement, mishandling of the HHS. To say nothing of the gutting of Medicaid, which is coming. The last thing I'm going to say is apparently Big Pharma is not worried. So remember how RFK and all the right wingers also hate Big Pharma? Big Pharma totally has not lobbied against RFK Jr. Why? Because their money's not gonna take a hit. RFK, for all of the big talk that he talks about, like regulation or that pharma shouldn't do this or that, none of their money is going anywhere. They will be just fine. So remember that when you think that he's actually gonna clamp down and make us healthier and get money out of our health system. No. Pharma's totally cool with it. They're gonna make even more money because Donald Trump's just, got rid of any kind of price caps on things like insulin and drugs under Medicare. So they'll be fine.
We're doing. Yeah, no, he's gonna deregulate. That's what he's going to do. And Republicans will be like, yeah, I can drink my raw milk now, make America healthy again. He's not gonna do anything that actually harms or threatens entrenched pharma power and money. He's just not going to. Even if maybe he individually might want to, Trump's not gonna let him. All you're gonna get is the deregulation. If you're interested in introducing to your body a variety of bacteria, viruses, and parasites, well, buckle up, because we're gonna have that. But no, he's not gonna take down Big Pharma. So he's in, okay? It's insane. It's another thing that we're gonna have to fix. We're gonna have to rebuild HHS, as we have to rebuild the Department of Education, all of this. We have to make America exist again in the next couple of years. For now, though, we're gonna move on to other news, other people that literally a 3-year-old should read the signs and know not to trust. But let's talk about Elon Musk, starting with this.
Elon can't do and won't do anything without our approval. And we'll give him the approval where appropriate. Where not appropriate, we won't. Where we think there's a conflict or there's a problem, we won't let him go near it.
Yeah, that's a lie. Donald Trump has literally no idea what Donald Trump or his little band of incels is doing in the government. You think, what do you think? He's following him around, he's getting progress reports? No, he has no idea. He is owned by Elon Musk, so he has unleashed Elon Musk to go to harm his competitors, to benefit himself, all in the name of finding corruption, with the entire endeavor being the definition of corruption. And hey, we have an amazing example of it for today's show. The State Department apparently plans to buy $400 million of armored Tesla Cybertrucks.
Jesus.
Which is simultaneously wildly corrupt, considering that Elon Musk paid Trump's way into the presidency and is doing all this stuff. And also the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Cybertrucks can't even make it through a car wash without breaking down. You have to worry about dead bugs ruining the finish. That's how poorly they're manufactured. And you think slapping more metal on top of them when they can barely function as it is a solution to all of our problems? So as he's going around, this is how cheaply people are bought and their identity politics nonsense. They say, Elon Musk found that USAID paid $30,000 for a trans opera, even though it wasn't USAID, it was a State Department, a totally different thing. So we got rid of 30,000, that's corruption. 400 million to Tesla. Do you know how many trans operas you could buy with that? I didn't do the math because it's too stupid to consider, but yeah, that's how cheaply they're bought. Now this is for 2025. I'm assuming they'll have to pay more once they start all breaking down. So that's really cool. And by the way, once this got out, it was so obviously corrupt that they decided to try to obscure it a little bit. And so the State Department removed the mention of armored Teslas to just say, no, it's gonna be armored electric vehicles. Oh, okay, well, I own a Chevy Bolt. Maybe it'll be those. Come on, Chevy, let's get some up-armored Bolts on the road. No, they're gonna do the stupid Cybertrucks because this is a payoff to Elon Musk. That's what they're doing. And so you can see the new in graphic 4 where it now says armored electric vehicles. And Musk says, I'm pretty sure Tesla isn't getting 400 million. No one mentioned it to me, at least. And I don't know, 20 million, 20, 30 million people in America be like, I trust him. He's anti-corruption. Nobody told him. Oh, whoops, $500 million to the company I run. What do you think?
Yeah, and meanwhile, apparently Tesla stock is wildly overvalued right now. It is just like it's crushing it to the point. It's like, at Truth Social levels. But this is like Trump's version of I never met her when there's a sexual assault allegation of Elon saying, "No one ever told me you're the CEO." Okay? Like he would never say that about X, right? Because it's like not, he shines on his different companies in different moments. But like if he just says, "I didn't know about it," does that mean there's no corruption? This is a day after he's in the Oval being like, transparency is a thing because I am saying the word, and I wouldn't say the word if I wasn't being transparent. And Trump's like, "We will take him off anything." Well, who's we, sir? Well, a Doge, mostly Doggy. Doggy and Elon will make sure that Doggy and Elon don't have a conflict of interest. You see how that works? I mean, again, this is, this is them policing themselves because they are, John, anointed by wealth to police themselves. And once you get rich enough, laws simply don't apply to you.
Yeah, 100%. And I get like he's an oligarch. So he's gonna get into the government and he's going to try to benefit him. That's what he's gonna do. That's obvious. That should be obvious. Everyone should be able to get that. We can't expect him to police himself. That would be insane. So he needs to be policed. Now, unfortunately, we have Donald Trump, who's just as corrupt, if not more so. So that's not gonna happen. The Democrats seem to mostly be laying down. I don't know even literally what they could do, but I'd love to see them try something, mix it up a little bit. The part that depresses me, because I would think we could expect more, is the people. Is like that you can see this. I go on Facebook and I see messages of friends or spouses of friends, and I'm like, you're being conned by this. The least charismatic, least slick con man in history, wildly, transparently corrupt. And you're being bought out by this. America is filled, and it's depressing to realize this, with tens of millions of billionaire bootlickers. Best case scenario bootlickers, buttlickers I think is probably more accurate at this point because it's more intimate than even just the clothes. They just want to be dominated. Financial dominance is a kink or whatever on the internet. And we focus on an individual level. We need to stop doing that. It is a societal thing. America has a kink. It wants to be financially dominated by the billionaires they have been taught and have internalized are superior to them.
Yes.
Now that
said, and this is what it is: running the country like a business, a crappy tech startup that is going to ruin a good thing, fire everyone, and if you're one of the lucky ones who can be loyal, a big enough loyalist / a big enough white supremacist, you win. Is that the America that we want? Do you really want this country to be run like a business, or there's some things that shouldn't be, I don't know, subjected to the market, like healthcare for the disabled and the elderly and newborns? Just a thought.
Yeah, and by the way, we're gonna turn to that in just one sec because I'm obviously making myself very mad. I want to, again, we don't get the win, and we already know that we're right, but at least we can get to that third tier. Lots of people agree with us. Let's take some pleasure from that. Okay, we're gonna jump into our B block. I'm gonna see if I come out of this feeling better. It's probably not gonna happen. In these terrible and dark times, we need to make sure that we don't assume that just because something is happening and it's happening really fast and it's happening worse than we thought it would, that means that it's popular, okay? And here's an example of how people can go wrong on that.
Unfortunately, Democrats are only focused on one thing right now, Mr. Musk. The fact of the matter, he's quite popular. He has the largest platform in human history, which is, of course, Twitter/X. And I think we're missing the boat as Democrats. And all I'm saying is that sometimes it's better to join them and actually play a role in how the strategy works rather than so pathetically, frankly, try to combat something that clearly is a steamroller and Democrats are being steamrolled. I don't want to cross my fingers. I think Democrats should join the club and then have more credibility to actually raise the alarm about constitutional issues. Right now, it's the boy who cried wolf.
I've had a positive conversation or two with Dean Phillips, but I cannot conceive with my limited vocabulary how utterly wrong I think he is about every syllable that emitted itself from the front of his head. He's popular, he has a big platform. He bought the platform. He wasn't voted the new head of Twitter on America's next top platform. It wasn't a democratic thing. He's rich and he bought it. People didn't want him to. They fled the platform because of that. And in a general sense, no, he is not popular. Dear God, please Google a poll. Now, I know he wants you to believe that he is. He's got a tweet out right now with Sydney Sweeney's face on it for some reason. So Miss Sweeney, please don't check your DMs because I know Elon Musk is trying to have his 15th kid with you right now. And it says something about how you'd be fine with him doing all these cuts because you're not part of the parasite class. That's the literal quote in that. So, disabled people and everything who are gonna lose out on these benefits are the parasite class, according to the world's richest man. And he says, here's why 90% of Americans love Doge. No, not even remotely close, dear God. And we have the actual polls to show it. So again, when you ask people the gap between how much influence you think Elon Musk has over Donald Trump and how much you want him to have. So look, obviously nobody's shocked that like only 7% of Democrats want him to have a lot of influence. 35% of Republicans want him to have a lot of influence. That's only 1 in 3 of people who want Donald Trump to be in office. So they're already long gone mentally in a lot of ways. Only 1 in 3 of them even want him to be nearly as influential as he is. And importantly, when you look at independents, they look way more like Democrats than they do like Republicans in this. Only 12% of independents want him to have a lot of influence over what's going on right now. So look, if you cut out the partisans, the Democrats or Republicans, 90% of America supports Doge. No, 12% of independents want you to have the sort of influence that you have right now. And by the way, his unfavorable numbers, we gave you an update like a week or 2 ago about how much they've dropped since the election. They're dropping in huge numbers just in a week. He lost 7 percentage points of favorability in just the past week. Just the past week. Now, maybe some of that is, Nazi, hand signals as opposed to Doge, but he's at 36% approval rating. He's like Mitch McConnell or something. So forget me with the 90% thing. And you can see, by the way, if we want to talk about Doge, you can give me your thoughts. We'll leave this up for a little bit. Here is the favorability of different federal bodies. The vast majority are far more, like you look at that, Doge is at the bottom of that. The US adult citizens in terms of the approval rating. Most of these are way, way more popular than Doge is for obvious reasons. Francesca, what do you make of that?
First of all, Doggy is not an actual government agency. Let's just name that again. But give it time. And I'm sure at some point it's gonna do something good for 2 people. Dean Phillips needs to resign. That's just all I have to say about that. Like, there is no way that you can be not only a Democrat, but a Democrat doing a national television hit, a Democrat who's the co-chair of the communications committee of the Democratic Party. And this is what you're saying? We need to go with them on this and then see if they'll give us a seat at the kids' table so we can be like, oh, please, sir, don't cut Medicaid to the tune of 800 billion. Like, this is insane to me. These Democrats need to resign, get out the way. I had some respect for Dean for actually trying to primary Joe Biden, but now I realize that if he primaried him, he would have just been some worse version, some sort of like, we need to meet him in some mansion, Joe Manchin kind of like, incarnation. This is pathetic. That is awful, and it does not matter. Like, John, Trump's popular. Like it's undeniable that Trump is popular. So what does that mean? Trump also is an accused rapist. Like, Trump also sicked a mob on the Capitol and tried to overturn the January 6th or do it on January 6th to overturn the election. He's been impeached twice. Okay, he's been strong-arming governments around the world. He's turned into a mob boss, but he's popular. So this is the thing with like, you're misunderstanding popularity. Meanwhile, last thing I'll say is there's popular things in the Democratic Party. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is popular. Representative Ilhan Omar is popular. Bernie Sanders is popular. So what about that? The most popular politician, I believe, what is it? Bernie #1, AOC #2. Democrats cannot tell a good thing when it literally hits them in the effing face, and they will never, ever stop fighting the progressives. I think it's time to give up this fight and to say, bye, Dean. Like, you guys, we need to go our own way. That's my opinion.
I mean, I certainly was calling for that for Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, and also, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, but I said, I think it's time for a group of these incredibly popular Democrats to stage a coup inside of the Democratic Party. A political one, obviously, and just designate themselves for the good of America, for the good of the party, because we're never gonna be allowed into leadership. We are taking that mantle. And they should do that. They should 100% do that. And if you wanna come on the show and announce it, feel free. I'll bring you on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway. And
not only that, we'll support you. Like, I don't know how to get this message across. The people will support you, and not just like weirdo lefties like myself, or very normal nerdy lefties like John. But I think
normal hot lefties like me. You have a wide variety of constituencies.
Super hot, strong. Yeah, but like so many other libs will support you. Liberals will support you writ large. I'm telling 100%.
You. They want to see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't see at least they're fighting back mantle to only like the Newsoms or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have to take a break. Lots more to get to after this. I disagree with the Trump is very popular thing. Net negative approval, higher than I would like it to be. I will grant you that. And he also has lost like 40 points among Gen Z since the election.
Sure. I mean, maybe he was. I guess that was the other thing. It's like he was popular, but being popular doesn't mean you deserve power.
I agree. But so behind the scenes, I forgot about the reset. Let's try to do the reset really fast. Okay, we will come back to that. We have to be quick for here on out in the first hour because there's a lot that we have to get to. And I'm only saying that to myself, never to Francesca. But anyway, with that said, why don't we jump into assuming Google will allow me access to my documents again. Okay, let's see what's going on out there. Thank you for all the gifting going on. Dami Mami Matrix gifted 5 memberships. Windrunner Dragon gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much.
Wow.
Benjamin Morrill gifted a membership as always. Chaotic Neutral Dragon gifted 1. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Laurel P, member for 36 months, 3 full years, says disabled and chronically ill people are gonna get hurt because of RFK Jr. 100%. Here's me, John being hyperbolic for the day. People are gonna die thanks to RFK Jr. getting this job that he's not qualified for. I don't necessarily know exactly which people. I don't know how many people, which state they're gonna be, but people's lives would have continued. They will now end because RFK Jr. is in a position that he's not qualified for.
And then really briefly, the one thing we didn't mention is that mifepristone is gone. So medication abortions are gonna be gone. He's gonna help obliterate rescind their FDA approval.
Yeah, and by the way, there might be some people who are like, well, I disagree with RFK Jr. on some stuff, but he's got principles. Does he? He's supported abortion for his entire life. That's like 130 years of staunch support for abortion rights. Oh, but I want a job though. So I guess screw women and their bodies? No, they don't have those rights anymore because I want a job, because I want a job. And even though
I thought Donald Trump was a danger to American society and a total liar, but I want a job. So now I'm a Republican.
100%. Okay, Google, if you don't stop signing me out of my documents, I'm on the end of my tether as it is. I've signed in 3 times, you know who I am. Anyway, let's read some super chats. Bianca says in a super chat, as a person who has a condition that requires meds for the rest of my life, this is frightening. I'm also on a government plan that helps with the cost. I'm waiting for that to be taken away. I am really sorry for what's likely to come for you and for so many other people. Okay, Neil Whittington says Donald Trump belongs in prison, not the White House. I agree, as always. Pitchforks Dragon says in super chat, they went from don't tread on me to step on me, rich daddy. 100%. Pitchforks Dragon also says, I love that John and Francesca just work each other up until they're both pissed.
That's how you know I'm a good guest.
There you go. And Jess Ness says, yay, Franny is here. John is great, but I love it when you join. Thank you for always bringing your light and humor. Stay strong, girl, you rock.
Thank you.
Nice. Okay, Embedded Dude says, slow down, John, you're mixing up your demons. I don't, did I say the wrong name at some point? Or do they mean metaphorically? I'm not sure. Octo Squiddy says, Democrats bury their most popular politicians. Yeah, I mean, the green dream or whatever.
Yes, they do.
Oh, these people. Ashmanale says, or has been here for 53 months on Twitch. God damn. Says, our government has failed us. We need to rebuild all of it once Trump is gone in any way he could go. Yeah, and that's gonna be incredibly difficult. We needed to be making positive progress on the problems we already had, not fixing the things needlessly broken to distract us from those problems. Okay, more to come after this. Okay, we're gonna jump just really fast into one little micro topic and then we'll get on with other news. It is incredibly likely that Elon Musk, in addition to just doing insane stuff and likely corrupt stuff, is also probably breaking the law in the way that he's getting into, in some ways, hacking and messing with different federal departments. He also, in his little press conference earlier this week, might have admitted to a very particular sort of crime, because he said at one point, we do find it sort of, we find it sort of rather odd that, I'm not gonna do that the whole way, but you know what it is. You know that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow managed to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth. And I have to admit, I understand why people just sort of passed by that statement. I even just passed by that statement. But hold up, pump the brakes a little bit. How the hell does he know what these government employees' net worth is?
Yeah.
That's not in their like documents in the, well, it's not necessarily not in any of the Treasury Department documents. It has nothing to do with their pay though, which, yeah, maybe he got some of his little groomed 18 to 21-year-olds or whatever to access their pay numbers. But their net worth numbers? Now look, the more likely explanation is that he is just lying, as he is about the fact that there's quite a few that are making that much money. Only about 3% of federal employees make $200,000 or more. Most make $50,000 to $110,000, which, considering that most of them live in DC, is hardly a high salary. Let's be clear about that. So he's lying about that part. So Francesca, is he lying about the second part? Or does he actually know what their net worth is because he's almost certainly illegally accessed private financial information?
I think he has their information. That's what I think. This is an administration, this is an entity, doggy, that is deliberately targeting people of color, queer people, women who are in the federal government or used to be. There is a DEI watch list. These are people who are, accepting tips for anyone who is a DEI hire. In other words, just black people, just women, just people of color, just queer people, just disabled people. That's it. That's all there. And so this is a movement more broadly, John, that we know loves doxing people. They love tearing people down. One of their little stewards is Libs of TikTok, Chaya Raichik, again, a door with a dress on. She loves doxing people. They platform her on Fox News. And so wanna bet they're gonna go after people with their names, with their addresses, with their social security numbers, absolutely, to say, I'm using you as an example of someone who I think is undeserving and has too much money. They need an enemy and they're creating them, and it's effing terrifying.
I could not agree more. By the way, in terms of what people could be hiding their financial numbers, they don't have to make all these disclosures, random employees, but Elon Musk is supposed to for the position he's in. And Trump says it's public. All you have to do is read his financial disclosures. No, it's not. Nope, it's not being made public. Donald Trump is lying about the fact that they are hiding Elon Musk's financial information. Why do you have to hide it? Or more appropriately, what are you hiding? What is it about Elon Musk's paperwork that you think, I guess, would be a scandal if it were to come out? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I know that you don't get to have an answer to that, but you should surely be worried about it. And with that said, why don't we move on to other news, although related news. Many Republicans in Congress have stayed mostly quiet some even praised Donald Trump's incredibly aggressive move to cut funding to all sorts of government programs that benefit basically every constituency that there is in this country. They don't want to say anything, or they're being positive on social media about it. But now that the cuts are hitting their own states, their own cities, their own constituencies, voters, behind the scenes, they're making moves to try to carve out little exceptions for their own neck of the woods. And so one example is Senator Katie Britt. Her state received more than $518 million in NIH grants for projects currently active there. She told a local news outlet that she would press administration officials to take a, quote, smart, targeted approach to cuts so as to not, quote, hinder life-saving, groundbreaking research at high-achieving institutions such as the University of Alabama at Birmingham. You know why? Because when you cut this research, it harms programs, it harms academia, and it harms the people who would benefit from it, and Katie Britt gets that. Now, Katie Britt doesn't seem to give a damn about the fact that the great research being done at universities in other parts of the country will be done, that people lose their jobs, that we won't have those new treatments and medicines and stuff like that. She only cares about her own area, but in so doing, she demonstrates this stuff is incredibly damaging. In the House, there's a whole group of Republicans from farm states and districts. They've introduced legislation aiming to salvage a foreign aid program targeted for extinction by Mr. Trump as part of his illegal effort to wipe out US aid. So they want to take the program and move it to the agriculture department, partially because American growers sold about $713 million of goods to the Food for Peace program in just 2023 alone. And so look at that, like, oh yeah, no, oh cuts, well, not my cuts, don't cut me, don't cut my stuff. And by the way, I agree with them. I think these programs should remain in effect. But even look at the sassy little way they're doing it. We're gonna save it, but we shouldn't advocate for USA to continue because that sounds like a bad thing. So we'll get rid of that, but we'll keep the program in agriculture. Agriculture's fine, right? Surely they wouldn't kill agriculture this time around. And it's not just them. Senator Lisa Murkowski is also saying that the directives to have federal agencies not apply any funding restrictions from his attempts to kill DEI that would target American Indian tribes in the state of Alaska. And so what about tribes in other states? What about other groups? I agree with you that those tribes in Alaska deserve protections. I'm glad that those programs existed, and you agree with me on that. But why just there? Why just those tribes in just that state? All of them, again, are being, and look, I know they have their voters are in their area or whatever, but every one of these little examples of them being like, well, not cuts for me, is a reminder that these cuts hurt. They hurt everywhere, okay? And Francesca, we're starting to see the results of real chaos. We had a profile in the New York Times, by the way. There was a woman, I forget if it was in the Philippines, it was in a country around there.
Yeah.
That she was turned away from like an aid program. She didn't have access to oxygen anymore. As a result of it, she died. It's like a 73-year-old woman, I think it was. And she's dead now because of these cuts. Now I know most Americans won't care about that at all. It kills me, I don't like it. What do you think?
Well, and what about the people whose HIV meds have been just one day to another, 1 week to the next, completely gone? So how are they going to access that life-saving medicine? There's going to be way worse cases and more death. Look, I am not big on the FAFO that a lot of, I think, crass elitist Democrats are playing on maybe Latino Trump voters or Trump voters, like in the rural areas. Like, I don't like that, especially when it's individual people. However,
I agree with you.
I am okay with doing that when it is an elected official who absolutely greased the wheels for Trump, who gave that sort of heartfelt, like tearful little, rebuttal to the State of the Union, talking about all the gangs and the incredible violence that Katie Britt did. I can do a better impression, but I don't feel like whipping it out right now. That I am totally fine with. You know what? And it's like, look, this is what Alabamans need to know about their leaders. And I'm sure a lot of them know that they will not stand up for them. If we think Democrats are weak, man, look at Republicans. Nothing but cucks, nothing but betas, nothing but little errand boys and girls for authoritarianism and rich guys. That's it. And so, John, my hope, here's two ways it could go. My hope is that the voters understand what's at stake here and what's going on, and they rise up and they, oust their senators and their representatives. The other way it could go is the way that I think FEMA funding, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, might go, which is that this will be a mafioso type government, and we will say, okay, Katie, what are you gonna do for us? Are you gonna allow us to build a private prison in Alabama and pay sub-minimum wage? Are you gonna make sure that you squash any kind of unionization efforts in your state? Are you gonna allow the legal limit to work to be reduced to 10 so that we can give you back some of this NIH funding? Maybe we could do that. And I feel like that's more where we're headed.
Yeah. It's just crappy Corleone. That's our government, basically. Yes. It's all just it's just cheap mobster stuff. And considering his past, his early career, that should not be particularly surprising. He wants to be able to dole it out on an individual basis so he gets the credit and he also gets something in return. And that's not how the government is supposed to work. And so anyway, by the way, I just wanted to clarify because I made reference to a story and I got some of the details wrong. So I want to make sure that people know. So this is a 71-year-old refugee from Myanmar who was in a Thai displacement camp that died after her oxygen supply was cut off. And so that's one individual who has been identified. And there's almost certainly many. We had numbers last week on how many people have likely contracted HIV as a result of this. And for a lot of Americans, they'll be like, I don't give a damn. It's Thai displacement. I don't care what happens in Thailand. I don't care what happens in Africa. Yeah, but again, that we're also focusing on all the damage that's being done in these individual states. Tons of them. Like the federal freezing fund, the freeze on spending, I should say. There was a profile in the New York Times like today of all of the programs that were like, they were just inches from being done and now will be killed. We're talking about like hurricane shelters in Alabama. We're talking about school buses for schools that they'd been bought. They hadn't been delivered yet, and now they won't be unless that fund is allowed. We're talking about obviously solar installations. We're talking about stuff, aid for farmers, medicine, all this stuff, all over 1,000 programs across the country, helping a lot of people. And I will remind everyone, we already know that the red states take in more federal funding than they give. So disproportionately, this is by necessity hurting red states more than it is blue states because they are dependent on federal money more than blue states are. And so again, I'm not gonna delight in it. As you said, I have never really been a fan of that either. I'm certainly not on a more than individual level, but yeah, you hate to see it. You hate to see it, shooting yourself in the foot just so that you can like feel good that trans athletes don't get to play sports or whatever.
Exactly.
So with that said, we're gonna take a short break. More stories to close out the hour after this. Okay. Jarrell says in the YouTube chat, lol, I had to stop the stream, Francesca, a door with a dress on. You are a muse of fire. That was very funny. I like that.
She really is. I mean, I'm sorry. I love that we're taking like the gender police of like what is a woman and what is a man. And it's like, come on, girl. Come on, girl.
Well, that's different than my criticism. Mine would just be, I know like they don't care. Like they're laughing their way to the bank like, hi, I have a nice house. It's all worth it. Are you sure about that though? Are you sure about that? What a crappy way to live your life. And again, I always say, I know I don't want to make everything personal like about my kid or whatever, but like if I knew that I was gonna put decades of work into raising Raina, and the only thing she would give to the world would be, I made some random people on TikTok and Twitter's life a living hell for a bit. I spread misinformation and I got paid by billionaires for it. What a crappy way to live your life. She's just for all like you could apply a lot of terms to her. She's just a crap person who lives a horrible life that no one should aspire to.
And also, by the way, Dean Phillips isn't in office anymore. I just want to correct myself. I said
that is a good point. Yes,
he resigned. He's not in office. Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah, he resigned and then he ran against Joe Biden.
You should edit that out just so I look smarter.
No, in fact, we're gonna do our thing where like we repeat it slightly slower, then we repeat it even slower.
This bitch is wrong.
He should resign. Get owned. Anyway, John Jenkins says it takes McConnell 2 falls to do the right thing and vote no, and that was just 1 vote. Yeah, I think the falls like knocked some sense into him, I guess. But
it's because he's not running, right?
Yeah, I guess he can be. And also he knew that he was gonna get Like, if it was actually the determining vote, would he have voted the way he did?
No.
I don't, maybe. The dude did have polio. You would think he'd take this stuff kind of seriously. He's got the old timey medical debacle cred, but.
The one time I'm on polio's side, okay? The one time.
Oh my God. Anyway, let's see. Chris says, I agree with Franny. FAFO doesn't work when it affects people that made the right choice. Yeah, it affects
absolutely.
all of us. Yeah,
So
no,
many
I don't do
people.
that. That's the sort of stuff where it's like you see it on Twitter, you see it on Blue Sky sometimes, or like threads. It's something cheap like resistance that I'm always just I have no interest in whatsoever. Okay, Never says in the members' comments, an occupant of the Oval Office lied. Does the name of the day end in Y? 100%, just constant lie. I got really sick of the Trump press conferences, particularly the COVID ones at a certain point.
Oh boy,
the idea that we could have potentially years of Elon Musk Q&A sessions with his kids crawling all over him is almost too much.
I mean, definitely more kids, but John, are we gonna talk about how he's just not there? Like Trump is gone, like mentally not fit.
I tried to make that case to people all throughout the election. We played the evidence and people were like, nope, Biden's more gone, so I don't care.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, that's all water. I don't believe the whataboutism. Their brains are both melted, but like Trump is not there. Didn't he try to leave before confirming Tulsi Gabbard, like from the Oval? The one thing.
Yeah, no, he's just slumped over on the desk. Elon Musk is doing all this stuff. I mean, Trump is in the final years of his life, and he has to know it. Like, he sees his own naked body every day, try as he might to avoid it. He feels what's happening inside of the chasm where a heart should be. And so he knows even better than us how little time he has remaining and how little brain he has remaining. There, okay, I won't do the FAFO stuff, but I will take a little bit of schadenfreude from, Trump can get all the executive orders he wants. He still has to see his own naked body every once in a while. Anyway, for people who weren't listening to the social break, that's gonna be a weird comment. And even maybe for those who were. But with that said, why don't we move into our final stories of the hour? House Republicans have finally released their budget plan, and in order to pay for the absolutely massive trillion-strong tax cuts for the wealthiest people in the country, they're doing exactly what we said they would do. They're cutting funding for Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, all of these programs. And that's bad, okay? We do have a little bit of good news. We're gonna get to that, okay? But there's a lot of bad news along the way. The cuts are the first bad news, then it's gonna get worse actually. So the early budget includes a statement where representatives on the House Budget Committee pledged to cut a whopping $2 trillion in mandatory spending. While the text doesn't mention Medicaid by name, it directs the Energy and Commerce Committee to cut $880 billion at its budget, which is near impossible to do without touching the healthcare program. And of course they're gonna do it. They've been desperate to do it for a long time. It is money that goes to people who have the least, so obviously it will be cut first to make way for more riches for the rich. It also directs the Agriculture Committee to find $230 billion in cuts, which seems to indicate that SNAP will be cut by at least 20%. That's what's left of SNAP, by the way. SNAP gets cut massively every time a Republican gets into office. So we're just talking about more cuts to SNAP on top of that. So what does this mean? Well, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, they noted that 36 million people or more could be at risk of losing their health coverage through Medicaid. So 36 million of the people who least can afford to lose their health insurance could lose their health insurance. 40 million people could receive less help from SNAP to buy groceries, especially as inflation continues to rise under Donald Trump's seemingly crusade to make sure that inflation is as bad as possible. Millions of them could potentially lose all of their food assistance altogether. On top of that, the Education and Workforce Committee has been allocated $330 billion in cuts, which is expected to come from student loan programs. So you're gonna be even more in a debt spiral thanks to that. And so all of that is bad. All these cuts are bad. Here's what's worse. That's not even close to enough to pay for the tax cuts. That's less than half of what is now estimated the cuts will cost. And so there's either trillions more cuts coming or just trillions more that will go to the national debt. The exact same thing that happened in Donald Trump's first term is happening again. Now I'll have a little bit of good news that'll have to wait for a second. Francesca, I want to give you a chance to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, it is a wealth transfer. That is what we are seeing before our very eyes. It's a wealth transfer from the poor, the disabled, the most vulnerable in our society, those who can barely put a meal on the table, transferring their money to Elon Musk and his cronies, and to these people who do not need the money. The first Trump tax cuts gave millionaires and billionaires the ability, or anyone, the ability to write off a private jet, a $600 million expense. Can you write that off this coming tax season? It's right around the corner. What are you being told you can and cannot write off? Meanwhile, they gut the IRS, so actually holding any of the actual tax dodgers, should they decide to do so, that's beyond what the IRS can do. So this is a class war, and this is the most obvious evidence of it. Now, the good part is they're trying to go through Congress for the first time since Donald Trump's, was sworn in. So we have a chance to stop it. And my guess is they will not be able to pass this through the Republican House if people make noise about it. If you call your estranged Republican Trump voting relatives and tell them what is up, tell them what's going on, and see if they're prepared to allow either themselves, their loved ones, or their community members to quite literally die of starvation because of these cuts, in order to allow billionaires to write off their 8th home or whatever it is. So I don't know, John. I mean, the other thing that worries me is that because they don't have enough, there's not even enough money. Again, 880 billion is not enough. They're just gonna illegally keep doing it. I mean, the legal limbo of this seizure of all of our federal funding is not gonna play out quickly, right? And it will be, and has been, ignored by Doggy and Donald Trump. So I'm terrified. I think they're just gonna take the money no matter what.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Like this, at least there hopefully will be some news cycles about this and all of the bizarre changes they're making. I would sort of understand this as a consequence if America had been doing so well for years and years and years, and everyone was doing well, and then they're like, let's just go crazy for a bit. But the idea that a desperate American electorate would turn wildly to Donald Trump as their last bet, we need help, and instead they just get punched in the genitals over and over and over again. It's a strange turn of events. That said, I want to turn to the good news. When the Republicans push for their new budget, massive tax cuts, over $5 trillion, it'll likely go up from there, because that doesn't even include a lot of Donald Trump's promises about other tax cuts on the campaign trail. When they do that, and they're promising massive cuts to pay for a small part of it, the rest will go to the national debt. We have one good thing going for us. We already know this is wildly unpopular. And I don't just mean among Democrats, that goes without saying. And I don't just mean independents, even Republicans do not want this budget, okay? And so here's an interesting poll. So it lays out in detail 2 different stances. Keeping funding for programs that they're talking about cutting, the same right now, and not doing tax cuts for high income households and large corporations, or you can cut the spending on these programs and you can give the money to the rich. That's the red. All likely voters, it is 65-26 that people do not want this, okay? So that's already massively unpopular. Obviously, Democrats are against it. 80% don't want this to be passed. 62% of independents. Independents are much more like Democrats than they are Republicans on this. But then even Republicans don't want this. Only 36% of Republicans want to make these particular compromises, if you can even call them that. Cutting all these programs that go to regular working Americans so the richest people in the country can be slightly richer. They get 1 in 3 Republicans are in favor of that. Now, a bill being wildly unpopular doesn't mean it's not gonna pass, but maybe this can put a little bit of spine into some of the Democrats to actually fight against this, some of the perhaps sane remaining Republicans to stand against this. Republicans don't even want this, Francesca.
Yeah, and I think more broadly, when it comes to a vision that Democrats need, the progressives need, this is why we need universal programs for all people, because ultimately in a country that's been bought by the wealthiest, they don't care because they don't use these programs, or if they have a disability, they could just pay out of pocket for their meds, They don't have real problems the way we all have real problems. They don't work a damn day in their lives, right? Those are the people that are running our government right now. And so the real thing is when we restore, when we wrest control back one day, we gotta go for universal programs so that they benefit everyone, so they stop pitting people against one another, stop demonizing the poor, stop demonizing, women and newborns and pregnant people and obviously the disabled. Stop demonizing everybody and actually say, no, these programs benefit all people. Wink, wink. We know they benefit also the most vulnerable. And they can't be rolled back. I mean, watch when they try to come for Social Security. They definitely will come for it. Yeah. I think we're gonna see a lot of resistance. John, I'm remembering, look, the silver lining of when Trump was elected, which you and I didn't really do this show in the beginning of Trump's years. But remember that when they tried to roll back the ACA, remember
they lost
town halls and remember how they lost. We need to see that fight, and I think we will.
I agree. Okay, really fast, let's talk about one more thing to close out this hour. Whenever we're ready, we can jump into this.
It is a privilege to cover this White House. It's a privilege to be the White House press secretary. And nobody has the right to go into the Oval Office and ask the President of the United States questions. That's an invitation that is given.
Oh, it's an invitation, a privilege. And again, that's exactly how the right always talked about the media and Joe Biden when he was president. Hey, everybody, back off of Joe Biden a little bit. Do you not get how privileged you are to be in that room asking Karine Jean-Pierre questions? Why don't you all just calm down a little bit? You're so lucky to be there. Stop being so harsh with her. Now, obviously, the right doesn't actually think that, but that is the stance that now Carolyn Leavitt, as the official spokesperson for the Trump administration, wants you to comply with. The idea that the media is not supposed to push back. They're not supposed to ask tough questions, and they're supposed to do whatever it is that the Trump administration tells them to do. And we say that because for the second day in a row, the AP has not been allowed in to these events to actually provide tough questions of Trump, purely because they haven't gone with the Gulf of America BS, okay? They've been very clear about why that is incredibly common sense, reasonable thing to list both names. But the thing about it is the Trump administration wants full compliance. They want surrender of the media. And we have a great follow-up question. Just briefly, I wanna play. This is Caitlin Collins of CNN asking Leavitt a question after what you just saw.
Isn't it retaliatory in nature is the argument, because the reason that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. And it is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America. Apple has recognized that, Google has recognized that, pretty much every other outlet in this room has recognized that body of water as the Gulf of America. And it's very important to this administration that we get that right, not just for people here at home, but also for the rest of the world.
Yeah, so again, they've acknowledged both names, and it's been 400 years that it's been the Gulf of Mexico. They have an obligation to make sure that people know what they're talking about when they talk about something. So it's not some fact. And so people pointed out, like, so you want them to be politically correct. There's certain terms that are politically correct according to the White House right now, and others that aren't. I would also say, oh, so you're saying it's important to you that the name you've chosen for it is used and you don't want us to dead name a body of water now? Like that's what you're freaking out. You're canceling us because we're dead naming water? So people don't deserve consideration, but Gulfs do? I don't give a damn about Gulfs, okay? I'll call it whatever the hell I wanna call it. And I love that the AP has stuck to their guns there. What do you think, Francesca?
Honestly, the AP, I wasn't expecting it to be the AP, but hashtag resistance is rising. Look, this seems like a silly story, right? It seems like a culture war story. It's absolutely not. This is a story about truth and lies. This is a story about 2 + 2 equaling 5 or equaling 4. And so the Trump administration is using the Gulf of America as a trial balloon to say, are you gonna get in line? Yeah. Are you gonna obey this? And if you're gonna obey this, well, then you're gonna obey everything else we're gonna say. Like Donald Trump actually did win the 2020 election, and on and on and on. And so we're gonna see a lot more of this. And so which organization is gonna actually push back?
Yeah, by the way, and that's a great comparison too, because like, What are we assuming, that they wouldn't do that? That if Caitlin Collins doesn't say that Trump won in 2020, they wouldn't ban her from the room? They're banning for way stupider stuff than that already. They care way more about the lie that Donald Trump won in 2020 than they do about what you call a stupid gulf or whatever. And so again, I think this is a fight that needs to be waged. I would say, and I did say yesterday, why is anyone in that room?
Right.
Again, like, I know that the right-wing media would, they don't give a damn. They're bootlickers again. But like, I like Caitlin Collins. Why are you in that room?
Totally.
Like, if you believe that this is censorship, then don't participate, boycott it. And I know that it's tough because that's really drawing a line in the sand that the right they just might pack in a whole bunch of just anti-Semitic Twitch streamers or whatever, and that'll be all that the White House Correspondents' Room is. But I don't know. I would love to see more of a fight from not just the AP.
And it would bother them too, right? Because they would feel, they like that prestige. They want the prestige of the New York Times or CNN or wherever. Like, they think it's prestigious. They will. I mean, they'll try to take these media organizations over. But so I totally agree with you. What are you missing? You're missing literally nothing. You're missing lies. Meanwhile, doggies out here, raiding everyone's bank accounts.
100%. Okay, that is unfortunately we're way over on the first hour. We got more to come in the aftermath though, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Aftermath, one and all. We're here. Francesca's here. We're gonna be doing members cut. What's up?
Oh, go ahead. I just said hey.
Oh, I thought you were like, hey, like an intro. Okay, well, we're gonna be doing members content. So to start off the show, we gave you our response to the confirmation of RFK Jr., a fake and phony lefty radical, as Donald Trump said. And in the members content, we're gonna be responding to one that, I don't know if it's more damaging. It's almost crazier, and that is Tulsi Gabbard. So we will be talking about that in the members content. We do have stories. I want to thank Moondragon for gifting 5 more memberships. Super nice of you, thank you. And Nick the Silver Flame Dragon's been a member for 4 months, says, we go years knowing Musk has kids, yet rarely seeing them. One CEO gets shot, now Musk is seldom seen without his self-generated human shield. Gross. Yeah, I know that. I've seen a lot of people say that. I can't say for sure that that's why he's doing it. I don't know. Again, I think it's a PR thing of, we just need some prop that makes him seem a little bit like a human.
Can I just briefly, insert inappropriate comment, but then to say, if you guys wanna watch me on another show, not only the Bitchuation Room, which is my podcast, but I'm on Zateo now, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, with my show called America Unhinged. We're following the first 100 days of Trump's administration. Wajahat Ali is my co-host, and it's been really fun. And there's been some Dragon Squad members there, nice. And it's been awesome. So definitely tune into that on Zateo's YouTube.
Okay, everyone tune in. Okay, with that, let's jump into some more stories. Progressives are furious right now, but what they see is the lack of action on the part of the Democratic Party, considering all that Donald Trump is doing. And I want to turn to a bit of John Stewart pressing Hakeem Jeffries, ostensibly a leader among the Democrats, on why they aren't doing and saying more. Take a look.
Where is the Democrats' Project 2025? Is that underway? Is there, everything you're saying feels right to me. The Democrats have to make this point. Where's the infrastructure to do that? And who are the leaders taking charge of that effort?
In terms of how we better communicate with the American people, Maya Angelou said it best. People won't remember what you say. They may not even remember what you do, but they will always remember how you make them feel. And I think what we have to do a better job of is making the American people feel that we understand the pain that they've been in economically for a long period of time.
Okay, so I like that quote from Maya Angelou. And I don't remember exactly what Hakeem Jeffries said there. I don't remember exactly what he did, but I do remember how he made me feel. Really furious, okay? Because I'm gonna need more out of you than that, Hakeem Jeffries. We just need, so John Stewart asks, where's your Project 2025? That's a great question. I love that question. Let's spend the next year behind the scenes, in addition to stopping Trump, figuring that out and getting it ready. He also asked you, who are the leaders? Okay, and there's some great potential answers to that. And you just say, they don't need policies. They don't even need speeches. They just want to know that we care. Yeah, but you and your wing of the party have already proven that you can't make people feel like you're hearing them. You don't seem willing to do any of the stuff necessary to make them feel that. So it's such a dodge. There could have been a great conversation, and instead it's just nothing. What do you think?
Yeah, stop using Maya Angelou as a human shield for your fecklessness. Like, you can't hide behind a quote, dog. Like, at least speak in your stupid ass haikus. That's better. Or maybe you shouldn't actually be in power. Maybe you should be a writer, like Maya Angelou. Go write fiction or whatever. Because in the real world here, we need more than how you make us feel. Isn't that all the Democratic Party's been doing? Is just, running on vibes, and how people feel like things are getting better, and people feel like you really listen to them and you really care, and people feel like when you kneel in a kente cloth, they might do something about unarmed black people being gunned down by crazed police officers. But in actuality, they're not. They're not doing any of that for anybody. And the reality is, John, they don't have a plan. There is no Project 2025 from the Democratic Party. And I would have so rather heard Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the House Democrats, to say, you know what, John? we actually don't have a plan. And I think that's something that we need. That would have been so much more like human and real and understandable and more like, and something that he even just listened to what the question was, John, because the question was, what is your countervailing vision for the dismantling of the administrative state from the inside?
Yeah, it didn't seem to be a response to the question at all. Like, Project 2025 plan, who are the leaders? The Chinese once said that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time was get the hell out of here with that, Jesus. Like, again, I think communication is super important. I don't think that he's good in that area. Get AOC in there, get Jasmine Crockett in there, get get even a better centrist for a little bit than Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, because this is just not doing it. That said, I wanna just play the next clip. We'll give brief reactions to that too, because this is maybe even more worrying, but take a look at this.
Do you think in your mind now, well, the next time we're fortunate enough to create a message that resonates enough with the American people, and we get a Democratic president there, first, day one, executive order number 1, the government negotiates drug price deals with the drug companies, benefit managers out of the game. Like, we're going to attack this much more directly.
I will say that given the flood of outrageous behavior, extreme behavior,
yes,
thinking about 2028 at this moment for me is a luxury.
Again, I don't remember what he did or said, but I know how I feel. That's a reference to something from prior in the interview that most people won't get if they're watching this later. But Hakeem Jeffries was making mouth sounds out of his face hole, but I was paying attention to Jon Stewart there, because Jon Stewart, again, was very specific. He was on point. Here's what you can do. And Hakeem Jeffries is like, so much is going on. And Jon Stewart was doing that laugh that, again, I don't know him, maybe I'm wrong, but that said to me, you're not gonna actually address this, are you? Oh, you're going off on your BS. I teed up something serious, and instead, it's premature to think about 2020. Well, hold on a second, because Hakeem Jeffries, you've already made clear you're not thinking about right now. And it's also premature to think about 2028. What are you thinking about? August 2027? Like, is there a particular month that you are actually focused on right now? Because you're the leader. We need you to focus on all of these things simultaneously. And it doesn't seem like he's doing any of it, Francesca.
No, he is too busy going to Silicon Valley, as he did earlier this week, I believe, or over the weekend, and making sure other tech billionaires or millionaires are still gonna donate to the Democratic Party, that they're still gonna be on their side. That's what he did. Instead of understanding that these fools don't need you or want you. Who can deliver better tax breaks? Republicans. Who can grease the wheels so that crypto can do whatever the hell it wants? Republicans. Who can make sure that AI takes over all of our jobs, leaving us with nothing? Republicans, okay? Republicans are throwing down with the 1%. They're on the oligarch side of the class war. They don't want you, Hakeem, but this is the point. And it's not just centrist Democrats. They are corporate Democrats. They don't know anything else. He doesn't know anything else. He doesn't know how to fight. All he cares about is getting those donations to maybe, I don't know, stay in office, I guess. I don't know, or have a lobbying job. I feel you on John's laughter. Jon Stewart's laughter, even though I honestly think he should have pressed Hakeem Jeffries a lot more in this interview. I don't like that he's just been talking to like Jen Psaki, but whatever. His laughter sounded a little bit like, I can't believe you're not doing this. But also it could have been a like, I feel you, dog. I mean, honestly, maybe the Democratic Party won't even exist come 2028. And that's where I'm thinking.
Yeah, I get the frustration. I agree. And look, it's an hour-long podcast. Everyone should go in and watch. Like, I've been listening to a few episodes of it, and I think it's quite good. Sometimes the guests that he brings on frustrate me a little bit, Jen Psaki and all that.
Do you
but
feel
he's had
he pushed
AOC
back,
on
though?
there recently. I mean, like, in the context of a longer conversation, I think that he is repeatedly trying to get him to commit to actually doing more. The issue is that Hakeem Jeffries is just very clear we're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Nothing real. We might send a letter to Elon Musk or whatever, but that's literally all that we're going to do. And that is, again, why I've been pushing for a coup. I think that you need to have AOC and Jasmine Crockett and some others say the American people demand a response. They demand a Democratic Party with an actual pulse. And Hakeem Jeffries and others are stopping that from happening. So at a certain point, your loyalty to your country and your party has to be higher than your loyalty to one guy who's been in charge for 10 minutes or whatever. But we'll see. And also, Jon Stewart, maybe he should run, honestly. And maybe have me on your show. I know it'll be the worst rated episode of your podcast ever because nobody knows who I am, but I think it'll be a great productive
Are you kidding me? You'd be way better than Hakeem Jeffries. And by the way, Jon Stewart should not run for president at all. The reason is that he is actually another elitist. Like, he's got good ideas, but he's an elitist. And he's been a celebrity for 30 years now. And I love him. I think he's smart. I think he's great. I love the idea of coming in there with an executive order, but he cannot do the sort of mass movement building. He doesn't have that trust because he's seen too much as a Democratic elite. And that's the sad reality.
You can have him or Newsom. What do you do?
Jon Stewart a million times over, obviously.
I don't know. Newsom's hair is very nice. Anyway, okay, with that said, I wanna mix things up a little bit, certainly tonally in terms of topic. Let's jump into this. There's a lot of cause on a daily basis for both doom and or gloom, and immigration and the mass deportations is certainly a big part of that. I mean, we're literally building concentration camps in Guantanamo Bay. We're sending potentially accused shoplifters there. It is dark times, but not everybody is responding in a dark way. So I wanna play a bit of a TikTok video for you. This is how one person responded to an ongoing immigration raid in their home.
A la noche, por eso ella te reclama.
So look, it's obviously a strange thing to do, and it can go wrong in those sort of situations. If the police tend to be pretty sensitive to the idea that they're being mocked, so getting the camera out, recording for TikTok, doing the little dance is certainly a risky thing. But I think we need boldness, we need bravery in these dark times. And so we don't know who that individual is, their name isn't listed on their TikTok profile or whatever. But like, I don't know, knowing that at least hopefully the state can't crush you beneath its boot and sort of throwing it back in their face a little bit because you know who you are, you know that you have your documentation in order. Like, I draw a little bit of pleasure out of it. What do you think?
Oh, I love it. I mean, yeah, there is part of me that's like, okay, but you need to stop. You need to stop what's going on right now. But look, it's fun to mock. And that's the thing, is like the right thinks that they've got like, I don't know how, John, they think that they have the monopoly on humor. It's mostly because they don't actually understand good comedy. They think it's just like, we're saying the R word again, making fun of R's. Hell yeah, that's funny. Banana peel, slipping, go. Like, that's really with their mind. Like, they don't understand satire. They don't understand like funny sarcasm or comedy. Like, so I do like that. And I think we're gonna need a lot more of that kind of resistance. And everyone needs to also remember, like, to know your rights and like make sure all your neighbors know your rights. You don't have to open for ICE without a signed warrant. It has to be signed. They are trying to peddle these warrants around. It has to be signed by a judge.
Yeah, and that's why it's super important that people are spreading the actual information about that. And the right hates it. They hate people knowing what their rights are. Tom Homan in his interview like a week and a half ago was complaining about it. They do it on social media all the time. They try to attack Congress people who are spreading this information. I'm crazy. I thought the right liked rights. I thought they were really important. I thought they were actually on guard against tyrannical government. And now they're calling for people to be ignorant of their rights so the rights can be taken away effectively. Like, it's ridiculous. And look, we need all tones. We need joy and happiness. We need anger. We need passion. We need fight every battle simultaneously with every tone simultaneously. And so that's why I know some people will get down on that person for doing the dance, but every once in a while you need to lighten things up a little bit in these dark times. Now, with that said, we have one more topic to get to. So whenever we're ready, why don't we jump directly into that?
Do you view Ukraine as an equal member of this peace process?
It's an interesting question. I think they have to make peace. Their people are being killed, and I think they have to make peace.
We will continue.
I said that was not a good war to go into, and I think they have to make peace.
Yeah, it was a bad war for Ukraine to go into. They really shouldn't have done that. They effed around, and they're finding out, my God, this guy is either a moron or a monster, or likely both, a moronic monster. So should the country that's been invaded and decimated illegally, experience war crimes, all that, should they be a part of the peace process? I have to think about that. Well, you answered it. You answered it. Now, you may not want to be clear about it because he's a wildly dishonest person, but it is very clear that no, he does not see Ukraine to be an actual or important part of the peace process. And I want actual peace for Ukraine. Donald Trump wants to be seen to have ended a war, regardless of what that means. And if that means that Ukraine's gone, done, Thanos, he's fine with that. Most of the Republican Party actually is at that point, and that's what it's looking like. And we'll get to it, but people have probably seen all these reports of Kremlin insiders are like, they're elated by what they've seen on this topic out of Donald. Like, they're shocked at how deferential to Russian interests Donald Trump is being here. And we have a couple of exact instances of that, which we'll get to, but I want to give you a chance to respond.
It absolutely insane, this answer. Like, I love how it reveals what a terrible liar Donald Trump is. He's always been a bad liar, and there you have it. He understood the question perfectly. He paused and thought about it. Is Ukraine an equal partner for peace? His answer, as you said, was just revealed in him going like, let me think about it. You gotta have peace. Like, his actual, there are two answers there. One, the fact that he has to think about it, the answer is no, of course it's not. Of course, he's on Russia's side. He's always been on Russia's side. Russia's always been on his side, let's be real. Boo. So that's that. He thinks that Russia's been aggressed upon. Just because you've been losing doesn't mean you've been aggressed upon. It's because you decided to invade Ukraine. Hegseth is now saying, basically pack it in. It's all going to have to be water under the bridge. And oh, by the way, Ukraine should never get NATO protection, which definitely should be left up to Pete Hegseth and not the Ukrainian people. And I mean, it's just clear as day. Like, then the answer is like, I think there has to be peace. Like, what are you talking about?
He doesn't care. He doesn't care at all. There are two potential outcomes that I can see out of this, other than the Ukraine just rejecting it and continuing to fight, which is a possibility, although Donald Trump will definitely leave them out with no weapons at that point. It's either that they are utterly conquered now, or they're utterly conquered in a few years.
Yes.
Because that's why Hegseth is like, well, no, obviously we're not gonna let them in. And Donald Trump has been talking about, we're not gonna have any sort of security arrangement going forward. It's because, we want to stop it now. Oh, I got peace. And then Russia in 2 years just invades and utterly destroys it.
I think you're 100% right.
Yeah, and by the way, like, this is for the right, which is like, I want Trump because he's for peace. It's too chaotic. Well, yeah, when you just take the two conquering forces of Israel and Russia and say, you win. Yeah, I guess that's an end to the war, sort of. That's not difficult. That's not admirable at that point to say, oh, we ethnically cleanse one population and the other population's Russian now. I don't see that as an amazing achievement of diplomacy and peacemaking.
Yeah, it's just about relenting. Just relent or be killed, and you will be killed, and there will be far more death. But I am really glad you brought up Gaza, because that's exactly what I was going to say, and the Palestinian people writ large. It's about annexing the West Bank, and yes, it's about Russia eventually annexing all of Ukraine. That's what they've wanted. That's what they've been gunning for. That's what every single aggressive move they have ever done has taken more and more and more Ukrainian territory. And I think if Trump and Putin have their way, that's what will happen.
100%. And by the way, Trump has said, if we can jump to graphic 3, he's invited Putin to the White House. And he's gonna meet him there. He's gonna go to Moscow, I guess, maybe scope out where he'll eventually live. And they might even meet up in Saudi Arabia, because all of the world's most corrupt and evil elites are now just their pen pals. They're just hanging out in different places and divvying up the world and saying, you can conquer them, and then I'm gonna take Greenland, and you've got Ukraine, and I get Panama. That's the world order. They say that this is less chaotic. Okay, that's one take, I suppose. In any event, that's all the time that we have for the show today. We're gonna go do our members' content, responding to Tulsi Gabbard and what's happened in the last day on that. But thank you, Francesca. As always, a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Everyone check out the Bitchuation Room.
Do that. And her show and Zateo as well.
Yes.
Thank you everybody for watching. Brett's gonna be here for Garbage People tomorrow. Go vote. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.